take a bit of time on our female MPs for good reasons.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise also to support Supplementary Budget 1 of 2024-2025 because though it came early, Mr. Speaker, because of the austerity measures that we are undertaking after we dropped the finance bill. Mr. Speaker, I know there are so many cuts in this budget, but we have to live with it because that is how things are. And we have to live in our means. Mr. Speaker, I know our roads are in a very pathetic situation, but from this budget, we have seen that we have reduced 14 billion for roads, meant for roads. And what I can tell the Ministry of Roads and Transport is to look at the critical, after the floods that we had 2 months ago, to look at critical roads that need to be repaired because we are not starting new projects because we don't have enough money for new projects. New projects means even going outside there to borrow, and we don't even have means even to repay the debts that we have. But out of this budget, what made me happy is the JSS interns. They are going to be employed. That one is a win for them because there were many, 46,000 in number across the country. And I can say, at least that one looks good for them because they were really looking forward to be employed, and after the drop of the finance bill, there was a possibility that they were not going to be absorbed by the government, but looking at these estimates, I've seen they have been factored in. I know before we dropped the finance bill, there was we had talked about the sanitary towels where we had said that they were going to be manufactured locally, but going forward, before the austerity measures were taken, at least they were going to be manufactured in Kenya, offering a lot of employment for our young men and women. And at least we were supposed to be buying from Kenya and we are going to build our economy. But looking at things the way they are, I can say at least we have a shortfall when it comes to our sanitary towels for our children, which is a very important issue for our young girls at school, both primary and secondary school. But because things are looking this way, and their budget has not been reduced from 940 million Kenya shillings for buying for them the sanitary towels. Another thing that was in the finance bill that was dropped, and it is not in this supplementary estimates, it is because we are going to have connectivity across the country where every constituency was to receive 50 million Kenya shillings to put power where they have never seen power since independent. But going with these estimates, that one has been reduced. Also, what has made me happy today is the feeding program for vulnerable children in the arid areas. I'm happy for them. Without food, children cannot concentrate in school. Once they are given this money, at least they'll be going to school looking forward, they are going to be fed. And me, I'm a champion for children. I like when children are given their privilege at whatever stage of their lives. They are the next leaders of this nation, as well as they will be the core component of our nation. So we need to take care of them at their small ages and small years, in their small years. Honorable Speaker, what I would want to say today is we have seen, and I also want to categorically say this, we heard our young men and women, the Gen Z, when they said we want to have a conversation. And this conversation is very healthy because they woke us from the slumberland. And they told us we need to look into this and that. And they were doing a very good job. Out of it, we heard them and we continue hearing them. And I know as members of Parliament, we'll go back home and all of us are going to have a conversation with our Gen Z so that they can tell us of how they feel and how we should run this nation. But I condemn those ones who are taking this conversation because it's a very healthy conversation that we are having right now. those ones who are coming to hijack a conversation that was started by our young men and women. Those selfish people should stop. The Gen Z meant well for this nation. They were saying we needed to take a austerity measures in this nation. They said that we should stop wastage, and they had a very, very good narrative. And the narrative was good for all of us and for this Republic of Kenya. Those ones who are taking advantage of this situation, I want to tell them that we have only one country called Kenya, and it is our motherland. If they wanted to have their own maandamano, they should stop hijacking our conversation with our young men and women. What they are doing is wrong. Rooting other people's property is very bad, because people have worked very hard to acquire what they have. I'll say, as a nation, as we're continuing to have conversation with our young men and women, we'll tell them, those ones who are hijacking their conversation, those ones have always been here and they have never offered solution. They are using a backdoor. They want to use young men and women, but them, they are only talking, hiding in their cocoons. They don't want to come outside. And yet our young men and women, they came out, they talked, and we heard them. And you can see, even fuel to what is going on in the country, they even quote Mr. Speaker. They will have a caption or something a member of parliament said, and that member of parliament has not said that. I saw in my case that I was told that I had insulted the Gen Zs. I can never do something like that. I am a mother of Gen Zs in my house, and we do hear them. But those people who don't wish as well, they are creating stories outside there so that they can hijack a conversation that them themselves have failed to have. Mr. Speaker, I will also say, and I'm talking to the EACC, is an institution, an independent institution in this republic. They have also failed us, because those people who are found to be corrupt, they are left to be investigated by the EACC so that they can be taken to court. We usually hear of arrests, but we don't see prosecution. The debts that we are experiencing right now. Even it is going to be used in our economy, even to build roads, or even to do connectivity to the electricity. So this is a conversation, because our Gen Zs have come out and have told us we open the conversation that are very hard to be discussed during broad daylight. We need also the Pandora Papers, when it exposed them. We had been told that we were given 21 days for it to be told whoever has money outside our country and has stashed that money, and it is doing our country no good. We need to have those tough conversation that even those even COVID-19 billionaires, these are the kind of conversation our Gen Z are saying, can we have this conversation in this country? Let us not sweep things under the carpet and we say we don't have money, and yet there are people we know who stole from Kenya, and they have Kenyans, and they have never been prosecuted. So I am talking to our EACC, up your game. All those people who have been caught to have taken Kenyan money, please help us to take them to court, because you have been assigned that duty as an institution, as an institution by Kenyans, to be arresting those people who are rooting this nation. Honorable Speaker, there are 30 billion Kenya shillings that has been cut from going to the county governments. After we finish the conversation at the national level, then we are gonna go to the county government level. Also, we check and we see how also they are spending their money, because we have seen a lot of wastage, a lot of corruption, a lot of rooting, and nobody is talking about it. Money is money, either at the national government or even at the county government. It is Kenyan money, and we all need to know what is the purpose or what the money has, whatever intended function it was supposed to do at the county level, they follow it to the rata. Because I can tell you from where we sit and from where I come from, I can tell you there are a lot of wastage, and the programs to which they undertake are programs that cannot be audited at any level. So we need to look into this. Like I have said there earlier, this is our nation, our country, Kenya. We have had our young men and women, and they were bold enough, and they talked very loudly, and we heard them. And the conversation must continue so that we can put our Kenya where it's supposed to be. We cannot sit back and let money to be rooted. And people are told this department has been caught embezzling money from the public. Then EACC is investigating. Years down the line, we don't know exactly what happened. So if EACC can arrest here and there, then people would start fearing with misusing public funds. And that is the conversation our GenZs are talking about. If, as the nation and as Parliament, we are discussing about the supplementary budget and the austerity measures that we have undertaken moving forward, then it means that every person, every Kenyan, wherever we are, we need now to stand up and speak when we see something wrong happening. We should not be quiet anymore. If there is rooting anywhere, we need to speak out. And if we don't speak out, we are going to let our young men and women down, because them they spoke and we heard them. Then what we need to do is to act and implement on what we have promised them. Implement. If we have said we are having austerity measures, this money, if it goes to the departments where they are supposed to be, either health, energy, roads, or even social protection, when that money goes there, can we spend this money to the intended purpose? Because if we don't do that, then we are going to be failing our nation and are failing our young men and women after they spoke and we heard them and the conversation is speaking. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity you have accorded me. Asante.
Honorable Dr. Joyce Osogo Bensouda, tell us what is happening in Mutembei in addition to the budget.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I thank you because you are very efficient.
Kindly lift up your mic.
Sorry. I normally assume that I have the mic on my throat. I want to really appreciate that you are always effective on equity, on giving members chances. I was here in the morning, and it is evening. It is past 7. You came and found me here, and you've seen it important that ladies should contribute. I thank you, and I appreciate you for that. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make my contribution on this supplementary budget 1. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that I'm making my contributions based on observations and providing for some gaps which I think need to be looked into when we are still under this budget cycle, so as I am sure I am fully representing Mutembei County and Kenya as a whole. Mr. Speaker, allow me first to appreciate the GenZs and to appreciate this House and to appreciate for the first time President Ruto for having not signed the finance bill. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I appreciate the GenZs for having told us, reminded us that we must take up leadership. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to go on record before I make my contributions, which informs how progressively during this budget cycle I will be supporting based on inclusivity of the budget in terms of projects and developments in the entire 47 counties. Mr. Speaker, we know that the GenZs are scored, and I'm speaking to the GenZs outside there, that Parliament must take up responsibility. It is not signing, sleeping on the benches, say aye, nay, without listening and critically analyzing. Mr. Speaker, why am I saying that? Even right now, I expect the majority leader to be seated here until the end of this debate, because we are talking on very fundamental issues. Despite us being on Hansard, it is important to take on critically the verbal contribution. I expected the chairman for budget to be sitting here put. I think we should either amend that the budgets, the committees presenting issues, the majority and minority leaders, they should then speak last, so that they sit in this parliament until all the deliberations are done and we make responsive and conclusive things that are informative. Mr. Speaker, I empathize with the families who have fought hard and their friends, relatives, and children have shed blood to make Kenya reach the point that we have reached. Mr. Speaker, this informs all of us in the entire nation that leaders must be responsible, must be knowledgeable, and must be ready to listen. We listened as a parliament, and the GenZ scored on bringing down the finance bill. I am very happy, Mr. Speaker, that technology must also be upscaled by this House, and I'm happy that I sit in the Committee for Communication, Information, and Innovation. The reason as to why some of us even sit longer here, Mr. Speaker, before contributing is because the gadgets never work. If we are not able to handle such mere things, the GenZs are on experts. I know we have struggled in this country. Our children have carried stones. The GenZs simply went technological and brought this country to a standstill. If simple gadgets cannot be managed, what are we going to manage in this House? That is my first concern. This is the 5th time I'm putting it on record that I'm consistently told your name is not reflecting on the screen. Yet on my side, I insert my card at the right time, it is blinking, it confirms that I'm in the House. We must be responsible and correct simple mistakes. Mr. Speaker, I want to note that the meeting that Honorable Millie Odhiambo was in, I was also a member, because those were issues which were touching on child rights, protection, governance, legitimacy, and campaigns, and looking into the budgets that have been put to take care of our children. Mr. Speaker, it was affirmed in that meeting by the GenZs who represented, which is true, that systems have collapsed in this nation. This issue of psychophancy, the issues of MPs thinking that they are the only ones who have failed this nation, we must take it up from the grassroots, Mr. Speaker. How resources are utilized, how budgets are done, how public participation is conducted in all our respective counties must be realistic and to the true cause. Mr. Speaker, on contributing to this budget, I'm informed by calling upon this House, where are we in terms of revenue generation as a country? These things must not be opaque, Mr. Speaker. They must be publicized, and they must be given ample time to inform the kind of budgets and appropriation that we need to come out with, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would also want to contribute. It is not only the case of austerity measures, the case of cutting down the current budgets, the case of cutting down development budgets. Grants do come to this country. These things must be made public with a lot of equity, a lot of public participation, and monitoring implementation of grants that come from outside. We are not crying, and we should not be persistent that we cannot keep on borrowing. We are under serious debt. Yet, the money that is locally collected, there is no accountability. Yet, the grants that are received by this nation, there is no accountability. Yet, the oversight on checking and ascertaining that the projects are distributed equitably is not working. Yet, Mr. Speaker, at the same time, the needs of the people are not effectively taken place. We must differentiate as a House what is theory and what is practical and what affects any part of this nation. Mr. Speaker, I come to the contribution of the budget. I want to start, you asked me very well to tell you and to tell this House, what about Mutembei? I want to talk about Homabay, first taking care of the women. There are markets, Mr. Speaker, that you know the national government confirmed that they were going to build. Kona Kobodo, Rodi Kopany, Kindu Bay, just to mention a few. Mr. Speaker, I want to advocate that constructing those markets to women without solarized boreholes, without power, we need them to have solar energy so that the women can maximize the time that they spend in the market for their security and to ensure that they are maximizing on the time that they have the peaks in the sale. And to that level, I'm advocating that there are so many markets without transformers, without electricity. You cannot separate a woman with water. And so even the 10,000 liters water capacity tank that as a woman representative of Homabay County have tried to distribute across to the markets and to the schools of 100 in number are quite inadequate. And so I'm saying that we need an increased, we need to play around with the budget that is existing. We know that even State House funding is still left at 5 billion. I want to say that we can remove 1 billion there so that we ensure that we have solarized water, boreholes, we have power in our markets, we have the footbridges connecting the agricultural areas to the markets. So I'm really advocating that the budget committee needs to look for additional 1 billion to take care of our markets and our agricultural areas. Mr. Speaker, number 2, in as much as we are reducing and we must work with what Kenyans can afford, we cannot go beyond. Recently, we were hit hard by floods. We need water pumps in Karachuonyo, Wangchien. Families are always displaced. Are we waiting for another floods? I think, Mr. Speaker, this year, or since we got into power, we didn't get, as we got as Azimio. Let me correct that. I think this country needs true and honest spiritual legislation. The evils we have undergone in this country, I'm even worried about this budget. Shakahola deaths, the floods, the corona, no implementation, corruption. The EACC to take charge and do their work. The Senate to take charge and do their work. Let us oversight, let things be done from any perspective of any institution. Accountability must be done. When I look into this budget, we have different commissions allocated money. We have different state departments allocated the money. We must be hands-on. Gone is the time that we have the CSS standing on big vehicles campaigning. Gone is the time we have people swinging with chairs in the offices.
Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable Dr. Phyllis Barto, you know how passionate Dr. Bensouda is on national issues. Yeah.
I could have donated 1 minute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according me the opportunity to contribute to this budget. Mr. Speaker, extraordinary times calls for extraordinary measures, and I allowed the committee, the Budget and Appropriation Committee, for going back to the drawing board and managing to come up with a lean budget. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy as an academia, from academia, that at least the education budget still was retained at 650 billion. And it is very important, Mr. Speaker,